Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, I would like to be able to give some context to my debate, which I hope over the course of this debate becomes quite fulsome. Because, Mr. Chair, yesterday evening when I was in the House, I tried on several occasions to rise to take a call on this particular bill and was unable to do so, and I feel I must give my contribution some context. I was very, very disappointed to see the passage of this bill rushed through the House under urgency. It's not there should be very good reasons why bills come to this House under urgency, Mr. Speaker and Mr. Chairman. And not only do we have one bill, not only do we have two bills, but we have three bills that this House needs to debate and review and pass under urgency. And some of the other two bills that are coming up, there are valid reasons why that has to occur. But for this bill, Mr. Chairman, I don't see why it has taken the government almost a full year to get this bill to the House. And when it does get here, it is full of holes, it's poorly drafted, and it will require significant amount of rework at some stage. And are we going to be given the opportunity to do that in a timely fashion? No, we are not. We are given 2 years to sit and see and wait how this bill develops over the next couple of years. The impact that that's going to have on the returning offenders, it's going to be a wait and see. And I'm very concerned that the Minister has done this, because I would not have expected that of her. I mean, I don't heap praise on members of the government often, but I think that Minister Adams is a credible, capable minister, and I would have expected better of her than this bill, which appears to have been rushed at the last minute, amendments at the 11th hour before the bill is read in the House, and frankly not good enough. In fact, I would have expected this type of drafting legislation to come from other ministers across the House, such as the one who will always have the ignominy of saying that worm farming is dangerous to workers. But this bill, Mr. Chairman, has got a really truncated process. Members of the opposition and, in fact, members of the government should be given the opportunity to speak on behalf of those who would have presented at Select Committee. We should be given the opportunity, and we will be given the opportunity to speak their voice, because they are unable to speak for themselves. And there would be many submitters on this, because this is a very emotional bill. There are many aspects of it in relation to the Bill of Rights Act, in relation to human rights, in relation to safety of public, that need to be explored fully. And we need to make sure that this House is given the opportunity to do that. And I want to speak particularly, Mr. Chairman, to some of the aspects that have arisen, notably around the clauses from 20 through to 26, which talk really primarily about the monitoring process that will happen once these people have landed. And let's face it, Mr. Chairman, they are sitting in a plane waiting at the end of the runway to taxi here, and we are at the 11th hour attempting to put this legislation into place so that we can have some safety and some confidence in the safety that will go in place around monitoring them. Reading the regulatory impact statement, Mr. Chairman, it would appear there are many policy statements but no clear direction in how we are actually going to support these people when they arrive. And that is a major concern, because if this bill is around the public safety, about the safety of the New Zealand public, and we haven't decided on how we are actually going to monitor these people, we haven't got the policy developed and in place, there is a serious flaw here. Mr. Chairman, I want to talk about the people from PARS in Christchurch, notably Helen, who came and saw me several weeks ago with a woman in tow, I'll just call her Jay, who arrived in New Zealand from Brisbane with 3 days accommodation and $200 in her pocket. And that's all she arrived with. She would have been caught up with this piece of legislation. How is it that we are going to be able to cope with the influx of offenders returning to New Zealand, Mr Chairman, thank you, if we haven't got the basics in place to actually support them? What is the impact? If we were at Select Committee, Mr Chairman, we would be asking the officials to give us the costing. What is this going to cost the New Zealand public to put this in place? We would be getting some really good information from officials about what the monitoring program looks like. We'd be getting some really clear steers from officials about what rehabilitation needs to go in place. We would be getting a really good understanding of the implications of the human rights aspects of collecting DNA and blood samples of people. We would also have a much better idea of what these offenders, what their offence history is. At the moment, that's very unclear, and in fact we don't know for sure that we will ever have the full disclosure of their offence history. How is that acting in the public safety of the citizens of New Zealand? If we had given this process if we'd given this piece of legislation the due process it deserves, we would have many of those questions answered before the bill came back to the House for the committee stages and final readings. Unfortunately, we're not going to be given that opportunity. And Mr Chairman, I sat here in the House when members of the opposition parties rose and asked questions and sought advice and put their debates, and not a single member of the government stood and took a call to defend this process. The only person that spoke was the Minister at the end of the night. Why is that? Why are we not getting the government MPs getting to their feet, taking a call and actually providing some context and and you're absolutely right. They're like cocktail sausages on sticks sitting over on the other side of the House, just sitting there. I apologise to cocktail sausages. They're sitting there. Please, do they even have copies of legislation in front of them? No. One member across the other side of the House. How is that? You bring the House into urgency. Not you, Mr Chairman. The government brings the House into urgency, and the government MPs do not even have the ability to stand up and defend their government and defend this urgency process and defend the fact that members of the public have not been able to have their say in this very serious matter. I challenge the members across the other side of the House not just to stand and do closure motions, but actually to get up and do the work of Parliament and do your debates. If you actually have your pieces of legislation in front of you to refer to. Anyway, Mr Chairman, thank you for this opportunity. There's much more I would like to debate, and I shall refer to that. But this stage, I'd like to see if the government MPs would like to take a call. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just doing some... Materia Tudor.